Hi, we are a group of friends that came together in similar complementary industries and want to go over different types of topics that everybody's curious about and never learns at home or in school. And this week we're talking about our community, which is Bozeman, Montana. And it became very popular with the TV show Yellowstone. And we want to break down what it is that we love about this community and what is it that people might not be too excited about.
Yeah, so the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Or as Britt says, the good, bad, and the bougie.
Yeah, exactly.
We get called Bosangeles sometimes.
You see everybody wearing their Patagucci out on the streets.
Yes.
I think that when people think of Montana, you see the postcard, right? You see the mountains and the streams and the breweries and everybody wearing their cowboy hats. And it's so funny living here. I feel like it's such a different experience because, of course, there's cowboy culture. We do have Big Sky Mountain Resort here where, you know, it's one of the most world-renowned ski resorts. And there's also a lot of money in Big Sky. So people will fly in and, you know, buy all of the nice high-tech newest gear just for the week that they're here on vacation, and then they fly out. So you do get glimpses of that, but
Including the cowboy hat and the case of boots.
yes, exactly, the fur coat or whatever it is.
But we don't wear those.
Pro tip, there is an Instagram page that's called Bozeman Airport Cowboys. And it is typically usually people just posting what is pretty much tourists that have bought their cowboy hat or their fancy boots while they were here.
Oh boy, I have not seen this one. I'm
Me
gonna check it
neither.
out.
We're about to have a scroll after this.
Yeah.
Bozeman Airport Cowboys. So there you go, pro tip. But a little bit perspective. So if you have not been to Bozeman, Montana, or to Montana in general, I just came from a mastermind session with a bunch of people from nobody else from Montana. And the fact that we have 1 million people in the entire state is kind of hard for people to wrap their head around because most of the cities that these people are from have more than 1 million just in the city alone.
And we're the third largest land mass state.
Yeah, fourth. There's
Fourth, yes,
Alaska,
Texas.
Texas, California, and then Montana. We're fourth largest. So we technically do have more cows than people.
And we do actually have ranches.
Yeah, we do. So our biggest city in Montana is about 100,000 people. That's Billings. It's definitely a different vibe from here. It's a little more affordable, a little less bougie, more eastern Montana, more flatland. And then Bozeman, we're in southwest Montana, so we're 100 miles from Yellowstone Park. There's about 60,000 people in our valley here and growing all of the time. But just kind of perspective on what it actually looks like here. Our city of Bozeman has two AA high schools. Belgrade is kind of a bedroom community of Bozeman that's about 10 miles away. That's got a AA high school. And then everything else around is kind of smaller communities. So we're right in the mountains. There's a lot of outdoor recreation here. That's
Blue ribbon fishing.
Yeah, and we're the home of Montana State University, and so you do get the university vibes, and pretty much most of the people that live in Bozeman are Cats fans, which is super fun too.
Yeah, it's true. We don't have any professional sports in Montana, so it's either the Cats or the Grizz. That's kind of the big deal here. And as far as the university goes, it does have a really good engineering program. There's a nursing program. There's all kinds of things there. There's a lot of research that's actually done in Bozeman, but it's also called Trout U. I mean, because a lot of people move here because they're looking for that outdoor recreation and kind of just lifestyle.
And then the other thing that has happened, somebody will go to school and then the parents come visit. The parents decide to buy a property here so that they have ties in here. They can potentially write off their trips here, or they can rent out the rooms that the other kids live in. And then generations continue to come and we end up with multi-generational properties over time. I think Glenn Close is building one of those where she can house herself, her brother, her sister, and her daughter's families all on the same property.
Yeah, you can see her downtown periodically. I mean,
Yeah.
there are several celebrities that live around the area. I think Justin Timberlake lives in Big Sky and his kids go to school there.
He actually lives in Gateway now.
Oh, well, there you go.
I know where his house is.
So yeah, we definitely do have a little bit of that. And it's kind of been this Yellowstone, I think, was the TV show that everybody is always like, oh my God, you live where Yellowstone is filmed. I'm like, yes, I do. So that kind of made it a little bit famous as well. But we do not take people to the train station on a regular basis and just murder people that we don't get along with. So
Yeah,
that's not a
and
thing.
They're not building an airport in Paradise Valley.
They are not yet anyway.
No, they better not.
But it still is kind of, I mean, I guess the premise of the show is, the ranchers versus the developers, and that is kind of a Bozeman vibe. Not necessarily the ranchers, but the locals versus the new people coming from out of state. And there is kind of a vibe with some of those people that have been here for a long time, and they've seen the the price of housing go up dramatically, and their property taxes going up, and it's expensive, and some of the locals do feel pushed out. I don't think that that's the majority of it, but some of those are the big keyboard warriors that don't have a lot else to do. And so they're very vocal online, and they like to try to scare people off from moving here.
Or the one Bozemanite that's been here his whole life. You and I both commented when he said he didn't notice people being nice anymore and smiling and saying hello. And we both chimed in and said, well, we do.
Sounds like a personal problem to me.
I know. I was like,
what's the common denominator here?
I smile at people all the time, and they smile back and say hi. So I don't know.
I moved to Bozeman in 2011 to go to Montana State University, and I moved from Jackson, Wyoming. And so when I moved to Bozeman, I was like, oh, the big city. And it's so funny because it's so not. I mean, I would say that Bozeman today feels like a big, small town. It definitely, like pretty much everywhere that I go, whenever I go to the grocery store, if I go downtown, there's a 100% likelihood that I'm going to run into somebody that I know. Every single time I go to the Bozeman airport, there are multiple people there that I know. It's pretty rare that I walk around town and only see strangers. And so there is a really strong sense of community. All of the high schools, I would say, a lot of the town goes to all of the high school games to support the athletes, even if they don't have athletes that attend the school. It's definitely got a big sense of community. The nonprofits are very popular. They get a lot of donations, a lot of active participants. It's a very active community, active physically with, there's a lot to do with gyms and with cross-country skiing and downhill skiing and hiking. I mean,
running.
We're immersed in beautiful country. And I mean, we probably have like 100 hiking trails right here in town that you can get to within a 10 to 30 minute drive. Highlight Reservoir you can get to, and it's, beautiful. You can just like hike into the woods as many miles as you ever wanted to hike. And so we're definitely very lucky to have so much that's accessible right here in town, where you get the best of both worlds, where we have a mall and we have a Target and we have a Costco and we have all of this wilderness right at our fingertips too.
That definitely became very well known during the pandemic, that we were out hiking and fishing and biking and doing all the things without mask, and people would see what was going on here and they all came in droves to the next best place. But the reality of it was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think part of the reason that people get grumpy about it, that the locals do anyway, is because people sometimes forget why they left where they were, and they want to bring their politics here or their rules or whatever it is. And so my advice to people is always remember why you left and don't be an asshole. Like it's kind of that simple. You can come in and, it's kind of famous that Montanans hate Californians. Well, it's not necessarily true. They just don't really like California politics and the way that they run things there. So as long as you don't try to bring that here, I don't have a problem with it.
I hear that in Nashville too, and I heard it when I was in Austin. So California is going everywhere, not just Montana.
Well, and that is a reason a lot of people are moving out of California, because California has gotten pretty, they're kind of have a different vibe than the rest of the country in a lot of ways. And so people that don't really identify with that don't want to be there anymore. And that's fine. Like we understand. I always get why people want to live here. They want to live here for the same damn reasons that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the secrets are out, with social media, with the internet and all of that stuff. Like the beautiful places they're not much of a secret anymore. And so it's kind of a matter of people are going to know about them, and you can't stop people from coming here. And, people get really upset about development and they don't want more development. But guess what? If there's no more development, that doesn't stop people from coming here.
Mm-hmm.
And it just means there's less supply and more demand. And guess what happens? That just drives pricing up further.
I think you're either growing or you're dying, right? And
Yeah.
since I moved to Bozeman, it has changed significantly. I mean, it's grown exponentially in the last 15 years. And parts of that can be really painful because I feel like a lot of our infrastructure wasn't ready for this big boom. It was interesting timing with the pandemic. I always want to say pandemic for whatever reason.
Pandemic.
The pandemic and Yellowstone coming out. It was like all of a sudden we had this influx of people coming to Montana. And so the schools were like at capacity, and all of a sudden we have traffic when we haven't had traffic before. And there's nowhere for the snow plows to put snow. So they're like piling snow in the middle of Main Street. And it's definitely, there have been some pain points that I feel like we should have seen coming and should have been planned for, but weren't. And so it's been really interesting to kind of try to come up with creative solutions to those things. And sometimes those solutions come directly out of our taxpayer dollars. And so, a lot of these old timers that have been around for so long, they're getting these levies in the mail saying, please vote yes for this new elementary school. It's going to raise your taxes by $100 a year.
That one too.
And then they get another one the next year, and then another one the next year. And it's like, oh my gosh, when is this going to end? And but I also don't think anybody should vote no to more opportunities for the kids in our community. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
It is. You have to always vote yes for a bond or a levy. I mean, bonds are for buildings, levies are for learning. So the levies are the actual things that happen inside the classrooms. And the way that the state funds education around here is not awesome. It does not actually fully fund what we need to keep the schools open. So if we don't pass levies, the schools can't actually function. So that is a part of life. And right now, there's a new bond that's out that's coming on the ballot this time, but it's just replacing the old bond that's falling off. So it's not going to actually be changing property taxes. But unfortunately, people don't always dig into that. But we don't have sales tax here. That's another thing to talk about. I do think that would be something very beneficial for our community.
I do too.
I think, like you said, you got a lot of people coming in here from out of state spending a ton of money. We could be capitalizing on that and then have lower property taxes. But I think people would be afraid to vote for that, thinking that, would they really ever lower our property taxes?
Yeah. So I heard them mention that at the economic summit I was at, and they're really going to push it this year. So hopefully we get some traction. They have one in Big Sky that is for tourism.
Yeah, it's a resort tax. We had that in Whitefish where I grew up as well, and it taxed things like hotel rooms and gas and restaurants and things like that. And there is a bed tax on hotels and stuff. I don't exactly know how all of that is split out, but I wouldn't,
Airbnbs too.
I wouldn't be opposed to a tax like that either.
Well, one of the things we haven't mentioned yet is the weather. So right now it's fall. It's beautiful. Our temperatures are about in the 50s during the day and 30s at night. And everybody's like, oh no, winter's coming. But personally, I love the fall and the winter. I plan trips January through March when it just starts to get cold and feels like the days are longer. There's a misperception that we're super cold here, but we in Bozeman have 300 days of sun, which is unusual for a cold mountain town. And I can be hot at 20 degrees in the wintertime and have to roll down the windows in my car without the heat even on because the sun is so intense.
I don't know that I have ever done that.
I've done it very regularly.
But I do agree. I love the change in the seasons here. I think that is something that Montana has in spades. Sometimes we skip right from summer to winter. Sometimes we skip fall.
Sometimes you have all 4 seasons in one day.
Sometimes you do. And this fall has been amazing though. And it's like, I think what you have to do is just enjoy wherever it's at in the season. Like if you're out walking the dogs and the weather's beautiful, be happy for that freaking day. And yes.
Just be prepared when you go hiking or walking. Make sure you bring layers, water.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. It definitely can change dramatically as you go. But I do think that one of the issues with the winter, it can be really long. I mean, it can start snowing in September, and sometimes we get fake winter where it snows and then it melts and then it snows and then it melts. But it can certainly last until March or April. We get several fake springs every year where If we think it's going to start to be nice, and then it'll dump snow again. So
All
you
the
just
way
don't know.
until June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we'll typically have like a week or two in the winter that are pretty brutal, where it gets very, very cold. I mean, it's been like 40 below a couple of times in the last few years. And so,
Yeah.
don't get us wrong, it can be really harsh, and seasonal depression is so real. I definitely have suffered from seasonal depression. And so I think it's important when you're moving somewhere like Bozeman that has a long winter that you make sure that you have outdoor activities that you can still enjoy during that time, whether it's cross country skiing or downhill skiing or snowmobiling or snowshoeing or taking your dogs for a walk, or, just making sure that you're still getting fresh air and you're not just miserable because the air is cold, because the air is going to be cold for a long time.
It's invigorating.
Well, and I don't like any of the winter activities, so I just have a house in Arizona. So that's what works for me.
And that's what other people do, or Hawaii.
I
or
do always
California.
plan a trip in the winter so that I can go
Yeah.
find the sunshine.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's
we're-
the thing. If you want to travel, that's when you go, because you
Yeah.
do not want to leave here June, July, August, September. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Nobody ever, I had to go to a conference in July in Vegas, and I was like, you people should, we should move this to Montana. You
Yeah.
guys don't even know.
I think we have the most magical summer of anywhere I've ever been.
We really do. We don't get a lot of days over 100. We'll get a few here and there. But back to the winters, I mean, even if it's 40 below here, as long as the wind isn't blowing and the sun's out, it's not that bad usually. Like, you don't want to spend time out there for very long, but they a lot of times won't even cancel school for that.
Yeah.
If they can get the buses running, they're gonna have school. And we don't have much for snow days here. I mean, it has to be massively, massively snowing before we get that. It's very, very rare. So
Growing up in Wyoming, the only time they ever gave us snow days was if the buses couldn't start.
exactly.
I moved here from South Carolina via steamboat where it was negative 45. And I think we had an icicle about this thick hanging from the house we rented. And I was like, oh, this is nothing. This is negative 45. I can handle that.
Yeah, I mean, it's more doable with the sunshine. There are other
Yes.
parts of Montana where the wind blows, and that is brutal for me. I can handle the cold weather as long as the
Highline.
wind is not blowing. Yeah, the Highline, Central Montana. My husband's from Judith Gap. It's like world renowned for the wind there. They have wind farms there. It's just a thing. But we don't get that a lot here. We get a few windy days, but for the most part, it can be pretty darn magical. But yes, you do need to be prepared. I remember in college, we had a day where it snowed like 12 inches in July when I was in summer school, and there was all these new football players that had just transferred from Texas, and they were like, "You people are crazy. What is this?" So, you just have to know it can snow any month out of the year, and it has, and you just have to kind of embrace it. The worst part I think about the winter for new people is the driving. If you're not used to driving on the roads, you have to make sure you get good snow tires or studded tires.
Just get a Subaru.
4-wheel drive.
Give yourself time. If you're rushing on icy roads, you're going to cause an accident.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I really like about us having all 4 seasons, though, is I think it reminds us to slow down just as a human, like we
so.
all have seasons as people. And so I think it's important, when it starts to get cold and it starts to get darker earlier, it reminds you to cozy up and have self-care and, cuddle up in front of your fire and read a good book. And I feel like because our summers can be so short, we are go, go, go. Like everybody's super busy in the summer because we're trying to pack as much in as we can. And then when the winter hits, it's almost like, okay.
Family
it's
time.
Time to cook some good crock pot meals and enjoy my family and slow down a little bit, which I think is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing too. So let's go back and talk about housing a little bit more. We kind of touched on the fact that it was getting expensive here because we had a lot of people moving in. Median sales price for Big Sky MLS in September was $846,000, and that tends to scare people off. But that does not mean that everything is that price. If you want a condo that starts with a 3, you can do that. If you want,
Even in Bozeman now.
if you want a single family home that starts with a 4, you can do that if you get to Belgrade. Like, there are options here. We're actually in a super good market right now where, this is October of 2025 and it's slowed down a little bit. We have a more normal market. Buyers have great opportunities right now.
And the
So
mortgage rates have come down even more.
they have a little bit. Yeah, we're back at 11-month lows. So there's growth, but there's also opportunities always with growth as well. And the development is a double-edged sword. We have this NIMBY attitude here in Montana, the not in my backyard. Have you heard NIMBY before? So that's, which I get. I live on 12 acres and there's a subdivision that's going in next to me and it's been a farm the whole time I've lived here, and that sucks. I get it. But I also know that that's, you can't make a living farming 200 acres. That's just not something you can do anymore. So of course that's going to get developed into properties. But.
And you have that gorgeous view.
It's also, yes, it can be expensive, but I think if you want to live somewhere that's desirable to live, it's going to be expensive. And so either you can pay less and live somewhere less desirable, or you can pay more and live somewhere that's incredible. So you're going to be sacrificing somewhere, whether that's financial or lifestyle or whatever. You kind of just have to pick the pros and cons of where you go. And I really think that the pros outweigh the cons here. I absolutely love Bozeman. I love Gallatin Valley. I live in Belgrade, which it's like Belgrade and Bozeman are the same thing. It's just, if I lived on the other side of the street, I'd be in Bozeman. So it's kind of funny.
I knew I was in the right spot when I went on my first trip to the Caribbean, I think, for a honeymoon, and came back, and I was just as excited to get back home as I was to go on that trip. And it's never changed. We were just in Florida, and the traffic there was crazy. The prices of everything was expensive. I always go to the grocery store, and I have key things that I always buy, and that's how I gauge how expensive the living cost might be somewhere else. And one item was $4 more there than it is here.
Ouch.
Plus the sales tax.
Yeah, I do think it's important to have some perspective around that. And you're right. Like it's supply and demand. Any place that's beautiful and amazing that people want to live is going to be fairly expensive. But at the same time, what are your other activities? If you are somebody that's way into hiking and fishing and things like that, once you've got your gear, you're kind of set, and it doesn't cost you things on a
And you can get the
regular
gear
basis.
on Marketplace,
Sure.
or even at the Goodwill here. We have nice stuff there.
Yeah.
I do think that if you are like a nightlife lover, that Bozeman isn't necessarily the best place to
good point.
move. We do have a local comedy club. We have a couple of local venues that will host all sorts of live music. But when it comes to like late night restaurants, or like I said, we have a
Taco
comedy
Bell.
club. Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to nightlife, there really isn't a lot going on. You can, if you're actively seeking it out when you live here, you can absolutely put things on your calendar, but it's not like hey, it's a random Tuesday night, let's go walk downtown and see what's going on. It's pretty chill when it comes to that. So I have had friends that have come and visited, like one of my friends came and visited from New York, and it was like a random weekday, and she was wanting to go out. She's like, let's go to the club. And I was like, what's the club? Where do we do that?
Yeah, the club is a sports bar and restaurant. we don't have like a club.
Exactly.
We kind of used to with KOs.
Yeah, fair.
We
But
did
that's
have
not there
KOs
anymore.
once upon a time.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the party scene is mostly more college kids. That's kind of the thing. There's definitely plenty of downtown bars you can go to. There's also some dive bar situations. But then other than that, you've got some pretty high-end restaurants, and that's kind of it. We got a couple of good wine bars and some things like that. But you're
We
right.
have the ballet.
Yeah.
We have
Our
the opera.
We do. And I think there's an orchestra situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have some, there's actually a ton of art stores,
Lots of museums.
Galleries.
galleries.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not right. Art stores.
We have
You
an
can
art
tell
walk.
who's not the art girl.
All of our breweries close at 8 o'clock.
That's the
and
law.
all of our bars close at 2 a.m. So there's no like 24-hour go party at the club. And it can be really interesting trying to find an Uber or a Lyft. Like a few years ago, we had a company Christmas party, and we were at this place that was really cool, but it was like way out of town. And it was middle of the week. It was probably a Tuesday. And we were all ready to call Ubers to go home when we got done. And there wasn't anybody operating Ubers. And so we all had to just be creative and call roommates and try to find rides home after this party. So there's definitely drawbacks if you're looking for the stuff that city living offers, because although we have glimpses of that, I wouldn't expect that if you're moving to Bozeman.
But don't get us wrong. There is a lot to do here. There's events all the time. They block off Main Street for Music on Main in the summertime. And then we've got the Christmas stroll coming up in December. And There's events.
Lots
all
of
of the
farmers
time.
markets
Yeah.
and art walks and yeah.
I would say definitely more events like that in the summer. You'll always be able to find outdoor activities in the summer. The winters, obviously, we're not doing a lot of outdoor activities other than like skiing and things like that. But yeah, there's plenty of things to do here. It's just different than what you're going to see. And I would say most of the time you won't have trouble finding an Uber. I think there are some isolated times like that, especially if you're somewhere out that it's an issue. But I will say that I think that's one of the reasons that our DUI rates are so high here. I mean, one of the highest states in the country, one of the highest counties in the country for DUIs, and I think that's why. It's just a weird Montana culture that hopefully we're getting away from. But I think people haven't gotten used to using Uber and Lyft as much as they should here. So that part I hope is slowly changing, but it can be a challenge.
So one last thing to talk about is the job market here is different than what you might find in a bigger city. A lot of people own their own business here and work really hard independently. I don't know what the average wage is for a W-2 type entry level job, but it is expensive to live here, and you definitely would want a job and to know what your housing options were before you move here.
Well, that's a really good point because we do see a lot of people that want to move here. They are getting a job offer and they're like, dang, this is going to be great. And then they start looking into what the cost of housing is and they're like, oh, dang. So definitely do your research ahead of time if you are moving here for a job. I do think that the trades are huge here. HVAC, electrical, plumbing, that kind of stuff. You will always find a job here and it will be a pretty darn well paying one if you're in something like that. We actually have quite a few real high tech companies here. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and she works for one of the big tech companies, and she said they had a whole bunch of like higher level management positions open, and I was like, really? I was surprised that they couldn't find people for that. So I think you have to be a little bit creative with your job search, but they are definitely out there. There's always people looking.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have kind of bounced around between some different careers. Before I landed in this one, I worked in food service and I was a volleyball coach, and I had a couple of temp jobs. I worked for a restoration company and I worked for a cleaning company. And I mean, I didn't ever have a problem finding a job, but I think if you are in a specific career and you're trying to come, move your job here, just make sure that you do your research ahead of time to make sure that it's actually sustainable living for you. But to wrap up, I just wanted to ask, what is your favorite part of living in Bozeman? If you had to pick one thing, what's your favorite thing?
I meant to say this earlier, but I really do like the people here. Mm-hmm. I think we look out for each other, and people are so willing to lend a helping hand. It's a story that Justin Timberlake actually pulled over to help somebody on the side of the road when they had a flat tire. And that just goes across the board. I actually started the Grateful Bozeman, which I need to promote more, but for that very reason, that people will stop on the trail and help you if you had a flat tire on your bike or your dog needed his paw addressed, or somebody offered to take my photo for me when my son was struggling, and she happened to be a professional photographer and knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of really good people here, and it's what you look for, right? If you're going around with a sour look on your face, you're going to find other people that are looking like that. But if you are out there, with an open heart and spreading good vibes and wanting to help people, you're going to find those people too, because there are a hell of a lot of amazing people in this town. We're really lucky. And as far as my favorite thing, I have to say the summers. Like, the weather in the summers is just amazing. It's not humid. It's not blistering hot. Like, there's just something about being the perfect temperature with sunshine on your face and being outside with the fresh air and everything's green around you and blue skies. Like, there's just no place like it. I think it's one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. And I fly in and out of Bozeman a lot. And our airport is also a great reason to live here.
It's beautiful.
I live 8 minutes from the airport. It's so easy. It's got, I don't know how many gates we have now, but 10 maybe. And great little restaurants in there. And the whole one side of it is just a wall of windows that you look out at the Bridger Mountains. It's beautiful. It's super easy. So I love that. But watching people come off of planes sometimes and then see what they're walking into, like, makes me cry almost every time, because some people have never seen what we live in every day. And even in the winters, like, obviously I don't love the winters, but when I drive in the winters, I just remind myself every day, like, this is so freaking beautiful. Like, we live in a snow globe. This is so freaking beautiful. So it's, you've got to find the good things. They're definitely there if you want it. I think I would 10 times rather have this than the crazy humidity and the crazy bugs and things like that. Like, when we have 40 below, that kills off a lot of the bugs around here. So we don't have giant tarantulas or, you know, a lot of creepy snakes and things like that. We get to avoid a lot of those fun things.
Yeah.
We had exchange students, and I just wanted to say the one from Tokyo, and I picked her up at the airport. She got in the car and she went, wow, big sky. We don't see the sky in our city at all.
Yeah.
And that is the thing. I mean, it's called Big Sky Country for a reason. It really is that way. And if it's funny, one of my mastermind friends was in Livingston, Montana this week, and he sent me this video. He was staying at a guest ranch, and he sent the whole group this video of just like the mountains out his cabin door. And I was kind of like, I mean, yeah, we look at this every day, but like, watching his face and how in awe he was of what he was seeing. And I showed it to my daughter. I'm like, look at this. And she's like, that's pretty good perspective, right? Like, it is pretty, but like, we take it for granted because we look at that every single day.
I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
I've never not looked out my car windshield and thought, oh, they look so pretty today, the mountains.
I do it the same thing. Every single day, I just really try to be present in that moment and
The
just
sunset
grateful.
every day. Come on.
Or the sunrise.
Alpenglow.
Like, if you are a morning person and you can hit that sunrise, you will see a pink sky almost every morning, and it is stunning. And the pictures will never do it justice. So whatever you've seen online, it's better than that. So, well, to wrap it up here, if you do have questions, obviously this is what Courtney and I do for a living. I'm a mortgage loan officer. Courtney is a real estate agent. So if you do want to move to Bozeman, we would love to help you. We would love to answer your questions and make sure that it is a right fit for you. So please feel free to reach out to us on social media at any time. And then if this is helpful or you enjoyed this, please share it, like, subscribe. Our mission is to really get information out to help people out. So I'll just turn it over to Britt to wrap us up.
Here's to empowering each other one story at a time. Thanks for tuning in.